Hello and welcome. This is the Okayokayokok's tutorial on how to color a blueberry girl. If you've ever wanted to know how to color a blueberry girl, you are in the right place because I am probably the world's leading authority on how to color blueberry girls because I've drawn and colored so many of them. I've got like a three issue chapter, Size of the Blueberry, another 3-issue chapter from that Blueniverse of Apocalyptic Blueberry, and then there's Blue Planet, there's the Blueberry comic, there's Wendy Wonka chapter 1, there's commissions. Oh man, I've drawn so many blueberries in my career as an artist. Just so many blueberries. I've been able to kind of quickly figure out this method, and I'm going to share it with you. You can see here a little bit of color theory. This is a base color of blue. Blue is a darker color. So what I try to do is start off with a little bit brighter. I'll show you here on my color picker. This is what I would call medium, 50% of everything. I've gone up with a little bit higher because blue is just naturally a darker color. So we're going to start with a higher, like a tint of blue. And a little bit more color theory. A tint of a color is a lighter version of the color, and a shade is a darker color. And if you're trying to remember that, just remember that whoever invented the term tinted windows was not an artist because they got it wrong. Whoever made tinted windows was not into color theory because you should have lighter windows if you have tinted windows. They should actually be called shaded windows. But that's just an easy way to remember tints and shades. All right, so you can see here, the natural thing to do is to start off with a shade. You can see here I've gone ahead and done this, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it over here. In this progression of expansion, you can see her arms are getting more and more like not shrunken down, but her body is blowing up, and so her arms are kind of becoming part of her body. And so when you're shading, this is the thing you're thinking about. You're trying to solidify the form. You're figuring out where the volume is. I think I'm on the multiply layer. So if you're drawing in Photoshop, make sure you have a flat layer color, or flat color layer, so you can easily highlight sections and just color everything much simpler. So here we go. We're going to start off with our shade. If you need to figure out how to flat color, you can find another video of mine, how to flat color, and it's really simple. It's just like coloring a coloring book. And now we're going to shade it. So we figure out where our light source is coming from, and we just pretty much try to make this thing feel like it's popping out of the page. Not popping, but popping out of the page, yeah. So we're going to just change our brush. We're using a airbrush and one of the default brushes that Photoshop gives you. We're just changing the hardness on the edge, and this airbrush that acts like a real airbrush, it changes how hard you press down on it. I'm using a Wacom tablet, Cintiq actually. So here we go. We're going back to this default brush. We're changing the hardness, and as you shade the edges, you'll want to change the size of your brush and the hardness of your brush. You want some areas to feel bigger, and we're changing the form as we change the hardness. If you want it to feel like it's a softer edge and a more gradual edge, you make the brush bigger or less hard. Feels funny talking about hard objects while drawing blueberry girls. All right, so here we go. We're gonna kind of make these breasts have sort of been absorbed by her main body as well, so that they're going to become just sort of sort of like mound, not mounds. I don't know. They're like pancakes, kind of. I guess that's how I'm thinking about them, or how I'm imagining them, I should say. But yeah, we're gonna start off by doing this, and we'll kind of eat away at them with this brush. Eat away at our pancakes. All right. We need to eat a little more of this one. And that way it feels like it's being absorbed into her, and she's becoming very spherical. I don't want her to lose them all the way, but I don't want to ruin the surprise either, because if you haven't seen the comic yet, I want you to be surprised at what happens. This is Wendy Wonka and the Chocolate Fetish Factory. This is the second chapter and the third issue. This issue I'm going to dedicate to Denise Nickerson, the memory of her, because she died last week. And if you don't know who that is, she is the original Blueberry Girl. She was the actor who played Violet Beauregarde in the original Wendy Wonka, the one that... the original Wendy Wonka. All right, so for the belly button, one way to make it feel like a curved surface is to have a bottom highlight. If you can see it over here where I did this. This is the process of how to do that. Again, it's like the pancakes up there. You kind of eat away at it. I'll make the brush softer and bigger, and you just kind of make that a very rounded surface under there. And I tend to start the shading right below the belly button, just so I can definitely get that little subtle highlight curve on the base of the belly button. Okay, so we've got everything shaded down here. And now that we have the shade on, we're going to do the tint. I'm going to go back and fix this right there. That was bothering me. I'm going to go ahead and just deselect this so we don't run into it. So we're going to get a lighter version of blue, a tint of blue, and that will be good. I'm going to move to the airbrush tool, and we're going to kind of map out the surface here. Where do we want the highlights to be? I think we want them to be down here towards the edge, because this is where it's kind of popping out towards you, popping off the page. And maybe just a smaller highlight up above. And we're just doing this very lightly as we kind of figure out the surface and where the highlights, the lighting is coming from. Okay, so I'm going to shade this one real gradually because it's such a large voluminous object. We didn't do it so much there because we want to show a lot of different forms kind of coming together. And now it's becoming like one big form. You know, I think the tendency when drawing a Blueberry Girl is to do like a very circular shape that feels kind of flat. And so that's what I try to avoid with these, is trying to make it feel very spherical and trying to make it look like you can poke your hand through the computer screen and, you know, just poke it like the Pillsbury Doughboy. All right, so we have the form mapped out. We're going to make this a little more gradual. I feel like it could use a little bit of a softer shade. We'll make it sharper towards the belly button. That'll be a nice balance of hardness and softness. Okay. And I feel like we missed the top edge right here. This needs to be shaded just a little bit. So I'm actually doing this with the airbrush tool. We're going to do an underlighting with her face, so those eyebrows seem a little more dynamic. All right, so now we've got our tint and we've got our shade. Now we're going to do the strong highlights. As you can see over here, you do small highlights and large highlights. So we're going to do some small ones first, like right around here. These small highlights are going to be the strongest ones. And we're sort of building from these small ones. At least that's how I do it. And again, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Not that I want you to skin a cat, but you know the expression. Okay, here we go. We've got these strong highlights, kind of like a UFO being reflected on her stomach. And now we're going to just curve this highlight even more and make this even brighter spot. I want this spot to kind of pop and feel very round. So a lot of this is intuitive, and it's just the more you practice and the more you shade, and the more comfortable you're going to get with it. All right, now we've got a strong form. This sort of is not feeling very spherical, and I think what we'll do is we'll kind of work with a multiply layer later. But for now, we have a pretty good form going. I might go ahead and continue that highlight over here. Make it look even more round. All right, she definitely looks like a globe who's blowing up. All right, so now we can take it one step further. We've gone, well, actually we haven't gone all the way white. We can take it one step further, all the way white. And this is what we're going to want to be the strongest. We can go really small and make it feel very tight. We're going to go small again over here. All right. So now we've got this strong, pure white highlight. We can take it one step further, darker as well. So we're going to go dark, a little more violet, just like we would do with the skin tone. And we're going to give it some shading down here. And we're not going to go all the way to the foot. We're going to come with a real sharp brush. Well, not sharp, but a real small brush that looks sharper. And we're going to get that crease to where it looks like it's kind of rounded towards there. And now we have some reflected light on that surface. We're not really going to be able to show reflected light on this blueberry girl because she's kind of extending past the borders of the panel. But you can see over here, there is reflected light around the edge, and I would just use the base color. I'm going to show it just a little bit right here. Just use the base color after you've gone through and darkened everything to show a little bit of reflected light. Oops. So this is where you would need to be skilled with a brush and create a really more skilled than me to create a line that's that fits the curve. Well, I probably could have used that. I don't know. Maybe. You want to really match that curve down there. See, now it has more form. All right, so I think we can come with the multiply layer and we'll give this a little bit more form up on top. It looks a little flat on top. I'm going to deselect it just so we don't have the marquee things active and we can get a better view of it. All right, so we can see here, I do still think it gets a little flat right here, and we probably need to shade it a little more. So I'm going to come back with our secondary color, you know, our shade of blue. And we're just going to bring the shade down really softly. And we don't want it to intrude on this form right here too much. I think that got it. All right. So the next thing I do is real simple. I create a multiply layer and a hue layer. You can see the multiply layer is named multiply right here, and the green layer, layer 25, is the hue layer. With the hue, I go with a little bit more of a violet spectrum right around there. But whenever you use a different color, you're going to create more dynamic shape. So we're going to use a more violet color on the hue layer, and we're going to use the violet just a touch. We're going to go real light on where the shading is going on to make that shading feel more dynamic and natural. So we've added in some purple. When there's variation like that, it just kind of makes it look cool, I guess. You can play around with it, figure out how much to do. I'm going to go through and erase just a little bit right here because I feel like it's a little too strong around our belly button. I feel like you want the viewer to look at it and you want it to not shout at them like, hey, there's purple here. I just want it to be like, there's a subtle gradation in her skin color. All right, so we're moving on to the multiply layer. And this multiply layer is going to create a general form. So we've pretty much done the form as though it were lit kind of like universally. So we are going to go ahead and add a stronger purple, a shade of purple that's going to create this natural darkness. It's going to darken what is out of the light even more. So this multiply layer definitely helps with that pop factor, helps it pop even further because you can darken everything that's not going to be as close to make it feel more three-dimensional. And you can see here I've done multiply layer over here. I've added this kind of shading on the multiply layer, and once we do the background layer, it's gonna really help focus the reader's viewing onto this spot right here. They're gonna have a strong focus right here, and it helps to kind of bring the focus where you want them to focus. All right, so there we have it. We've got a very dynamic shaded blueberry girl, and it started with a basic shading right here, one shade of blue, and we went with a tint, and then we went with the pure white, and then we went with a darker bluish purple, slightly more purple, not too much. But if you ever color skin tones. I'll go ahead and show you here. The color picker. Let's bring that up. All right, so this is the skin color, and whenever you move to the darker version of the skin, you go a little more red and a little bit more intense with the red. A little more saturation and a little more red. So that's how I do it with the Blueberry Girls as well. You go a little bit more red and you also go a little bit more saturation. Okay, this has been a little bit of a tutorial for the Blueberry Girls, how to color them. I'm okay, and this is Wendy Wonka in the Chocolate Fetish Factory, Chapter 2, Issue 3. There's a lot of blueberry transformation in this issue, and I hope if you're interested in that kind of thing, you'll pop over to my DeviantArt and give it a look and maybe download. It's a $10 download through Gumroad or PayPal, and I appreciate any support you can give. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel for more how-to videos if you're interested in more Blueberry Girls. Thanks, and I will talk to you later.